Yo, what is good, everybody? It's your boy Golden Falls, Golden What If, whatever you want to call me, and I am back. As most of y'all know, I've been dealing with the COVID. Unfortunately, it hit me pretty bad, and I've been dealing with some couple other things. Like I started having some swelling in my my mouth and stuff like that. So it's been kind of actually difficult to talk. And well, as all of you know, literally, except I guess all but one channel of mine deals with me having to talk, so it's been pretty difficult. But I wanted to say we are back with a brand new what if Deku had a teleportation quirk. I got this suggestion. I don't remember who suggested it, but I was like, you know what, I've been actually holding off on doing this like forever, just because it's a pretty basic idea, and I'm surprised I haven't done it yet. But nonetheless, I'm not gonna waste much more of your time. Check links in the description, check all that good stuff, and yeah, obviously leave a like, leave a sub, and I hope y'all enjoy. Let's just get into it. Let's get it. Izuku Midoriya was born with something interesting, very interesting, a quirk that many really couldn't wrap their heads around, at least not to a giant extent. Only reason why is because they didn't know how he could even use it. How would he even control it? When he went to the doctor, the quirk doctor, there was really no sign of him even having a quirk. But Inko Midoriya, his mother, would say that that can't be the case. There's been signs of this quirk. It's been like as if he's been appearing and disappearing in rooms. He'll walk into a room and then disappear out of it, and he'd be outside the house. He has to have something, but nothing at all. And obviously the doctor would be confused as well. He wouldn't understand how this young child could be doing these things, but it have no sign of it within his body. Nonetheless, Izuku would head home with his mother Inko, and Inko would wonder if he would be able to show his quirk to the doctor, but of course he wasn't able to do that when they were there. Soon as they got home though, Izuku was back to his normal games, being able to teleport more or less around the house with relative ease. Inko would stop him and ask if he really thinks that he might have some special quirk. Izuku would look at her and slightly shrug and say that, well, maybe he's just really fast. But then he would start laughing. Izuku Midoriya is actually a little bit of a jokester at this young of an age. He knows he has a quirk, and frankly, he didn't really want to show the doctor. His idea is that he'll be able to show off to the entire world once he becomes a hero. So, well, he doesn't want to give any hints too early on, or at least until he can get to a hero high school. This is the optimistic young version of Izuku that he currently is at this moment. He feels that hiding his quirk from other people and then revealing it to everybody would be, well, the coolest thing. Everybody would be so shocked. The fact that he can perfectly teleport everywhere he wants, that'd be so awesome. Nonetheless, Inko doesn't really think too much about this. Of course, she wouldn't really mind. And to be fair, why would she mind? Well, nonetheless, his life would go on pretty normally. He would begin to actually experiment with his teleportation quirk over and over again throughout the years, but eventually all of this idea that he doesn't have a quirk would kind of catch up to him. Bakugo and his cronies would begin bullying Izuku. In the beginning, Izuku didn't care, like not one bit. But at the end of the day, and after tons of bullying, and after years of bullying, at the age of about 12, Izuku really had enough. He was so just taken back by the idea that someone could be bullied this much for being quote-unquote quirkless that he didn't even know what to say. What is wrong with some of these people? That, well, funny and laughable Izuku that he once was faded away pretty quickly. He would eventually go to his mother, and his mother would oblige with the idea of moving schools. Izuku decided that he wanted a new, fresh place, somewhere that he wouldn't get bullied, and that's exactly what he would get. Moving to this brand new school, it wasn't that much different, but there was really no bullying. The people there were pretty similar to those of his other school, but he actually met some really cool people when he was at that young age, about 12 or 13. He met a boy by the name of Kirishima. Kirishima actually sported this regular black hair and had this pretty interesting quirk that Izuku began to learn about. He continues to meet more and more new people in this school, and they're all under the assumption that Izuku is actually quirkless. Feeling no need to really correct them, he doesn't say much more. As long as they're not really messing with him, he doesn't really care. He's kind of lost his funny side that he once had when he was younger about the whole idea that he wanted to surprise everybody. Now he just feels like, well, nobody really deserves to even know. Izuku would begin to actually start training his quirk more and more, getting to the point that he was able to teleport himself to various locations around Japan, and this would be extremely easy as well. Izuku would be able to get his mother to work in a matter of a split second, would be able to get himself to school in a matter of a split second, and he continued to just use his quirk, make sure nobody would see, of course, but he wanted to use it to master it entirely. But he began to think, what is his quirk exactly? Is it actually just a blip, him teleporting or basically jumping into a different dimensional field, or what is it exactly? It seems like for him, it's as if this small portal opens, but then closes before anybody can even imagine it's there. He begins to basically theorize that maybe he'll be able to teleport body parts, or be able to basically throw punches through various portals. He's not exactly sure how that would even work, and he decides, after basically years of trying or training, he decides that he's gonna try it out. At about the age of 14 to 15, with the end of the middle school year approaching and him needing to learn how to actually attack things and be a proper hero, he begins to try and hit this tree that's currently outside his house. He begins to punch over and over again from a distance, trying to hit it, trying to do anything. But he would end up either teleporting to the tree or around the tree, and it just wouldn't flat out work at all. Izuku would try over and over and over again, but it just didn't work. He couldn't get himself to focus hard enough, focus enough to actually do what he's thinking. Maybe it's too complicated for him now, so he decides to hold off on it. After some time, the last day of middle school, and some introductions to the idea of them joining a hero school is introduced. Many of his friends, Kirishima, and many people he's met by the name of Ashido Mina and some of her friends want to go to UA, but frankly, the only people talented enough are Kirishima and obviously Mina, at least to the extent of what their quirks are. But at the same time, Izuku knows that he could get in. There's obviously a good chance, but to everybody else, maybe they don't think so, but just don't want to tell them because they don't want to hurt his feelings. Not many people know about his quirk to a very good extent, but after some time and after some realization, he now knows that if he's going to train with somebody, or gonna train, he needs to train with another person. That person being most likely Kirishima. He begins to speak with Kirishima about training for the UA exam, the entrance exam, and Kirishima is totally for this, but wonders how their training would exactly go, because he's not sure if his quirk will match up very well with Izuku not having one. But Izuku smiles and says that he does have one. Just as Kirishima hears this, Izuku grabs him on the shoulder, and immediately they appear in a home. Izuku calls for his mother, and his mother appears with him, or just walks out of her room and appears out of a room, and Kirishima questions where they are. Izuku says that they're at his house. How did we get here? How did you do that? Aren't you quirkless? Izuku smiles and laughs and says that's what he told everybody. He wanted to basically not let anybody know this, but since he feels that he can trust Kirishima, he doesn't mind telling him. Kirishima is shocked, but he finds this so cool. Izuku can teleport? He asks what else he can do, but Izuku says that's about it. There's some other things that he can theoretically try to do, but he hasn't figured them out just yet. That's where Kirishima comes in. Maybe having a training partner and maybe having someone to basically work with will allow him to figure some brand new things out. And of course, Kirishima is totally up for this, and Inko just tells them to be safe, be careful, and of course they're gonna have to study as well. Izuku doesn't find anything wrong with this at all. Studying isn't hard for him. Kirishima, on the other hand, well, it's a little difficult. Nonetheless though, Izuku and Kirishima would begin their training, but only after a day of training, they begin to hear stuff on the news while they're just sparring normally. They begin to hear that this Sludge villain is currently attacking the area, and Izuku says that they should head home really fast to check out what this is about. He teleports them back to his home, and they begin to watch what's going on. The Sludge villain is running rampant around the city, and it seems to eventually have captured a young boy. Izuku would look closely at the screen to see somebody he knows. See Katsuki Bakugo. He's shocked to basically see Bakugo stuck within the Sludge villain, and he looks at Kirishima, in which Kirishima wonders why he looks so basically out of it. Izuku says that was his quote-unquote old friend, someone that he knew back at his old school. Of course, they're not actually friends, and Izuku makes this appearance, but Izuku wonders if he can actually get him out of there, if it's possible. Just as he's watching, nobody's going, no one's helping them at all. He then asks Kirishima if he wants to go check it out as well. Kirishima's saying yes, so they teleport over. Izuku walks up toward the caution tape, and he watches as no heroes at all are helping. Izuku in his mind questions his ability. Will he be able to teleport within the Sludge villain and take Bakugo out? Does he have to get closer and touch Bakugo? Well, most likely, just in case he wants to touch Bakugo on the shoulder, on the chest, anything, so that he can basically just teleport them both out and not worry about teleporting the Sludge villain as well. Izuku looks around and he doesn't know how he's supposed to get in, but he says screw it. He kicks his way through the caution tape and begins sprinting out. Everybody is currently watching in shock, including someone that nobody knew was even there, by the name of All Might. All Might is watching as Izuku runs forward. Multiple heroes try to tackle him, but it's as if he disappears and then reappears in a frontward place. Izuku doesn't want to make it apparent that he has some teleportation quirk, especially not to the villain that he's about to face. He goes sprinting at the villain, and using anything he currently has on him, he begins throwing it at the villain's eyes and any weak points he can possibly see. Izuku eventually would land a clean pencil shot to the villain's eye as he screams, looking up in the sky to basically get this pencil out of his eye. A bunch of his weird goo would be shot at Izuku, and Izuku would teleport past it just as the Sludge villain's not looking, teleporting right in front of Bakugo. In a matter of seconds, Izuku reaches out, grabbing Bakugo on the shoulder, Bakugo in complete shock at who this is. Because in a matter of seconds, Izuku has Bakugo back in his house, in Bakugo's house, with his mother in complete shock at who's standing right there. Of course, Izuku just smiles and waves as he teleports off again, and he of course teleports right next to Kirishima, teleporting Kirishima and himself back toward his own home. Of course, Bakugo and his mother and his family would be happy to see him okay, but shocked at the fact that Izuku just jumped in, saved him, jumped back out in a matter of seconds. Nobody really even saw his face, but luckily All Might, the one cloaked there and currently hiding, did. He's happy that he was able to handle this whole kidnapping situation, but this gave All Might the courage and the strength to make sure to put this villain down for good. He extends his limits and he does just that. His simple mistake allowed for this to occur, so he was going to end it now. He basically defeated the Sludge villain, ending that little charade, and eventually All Might would wonder who exactly was this green-haired boy. But luckily enough for him, he would learn relatively quickly. Well, because All Might is going to be at the UA entrance exam. Of course, he would have to wait about 10 months, and those 10 months Izuku and Kirishima and anybody else who would want to train would begin training for the UA entrance exam, and Izuku would begin to master his quirk more and more. Of course, master is used loosely because it's hard to do certain things he wants to do. Of course, him teleporting back and forth is a really good tactic for certain things, but that's tiring. Things get tiring. So upping his stamina and upping his strength and upping all of the physical attributes of himself is something Kirishima and Izuku want to do. And of course, Izuku uses his teleportation quirk to teleport Kirishima into tall trees and throw him off to basically embrace the idea that he can take more damage and more things and eventually would get stronger and stronger like that. Of course, they make sure they don't do anything too crazy. They don't want to throw Kirishima off of a very tall building and have him go splat because he's not ready, but nonetheless, it definitely is beneficial for the both of them. After the entirety of the 10 months is finally over, they've done some studying, they've done some training, and now they're ready for the UA entrance exam. Izuku and Kirishima would be there walking up, ready for the entrance exam, and just like in canon, Izuku would be put right next to Bakugo, but he wouldn't know that until he eventually would get in. As they're walking by though, Izuku begins to just walk normally, but he actually trips on a rock. When he trips on a rock, he goes plummeting face first. Kirishima about to grab him, but someone else does it before he actually could. A girl that was right beside them tapped him on the shoulder and he's now floating. Izuku then teleports himself, rearranging himself back to his feet, in which the girl is completely shocked to see this and lets him go, releasing her quirk. Izuku scratches the back of his head and smiles slightly smiles and thanks her, and doesn't really say much more. He just drops the smile once again, gets serious, and walks forward. Of course, Kirishima's infectious and smiley and happy personality has definitely worn off on Izuku, but it's not like he's like that happy Izuku. He's pretty happy, but let's be honest, it would be more of him being condescending most of the time that he would be smiling, especially when he dropped off Bakugo about 10 months ago when he saved him. It was more of that condescending smile, smiling toward his parents, basically saying like, yeah, I saved your son and I have a quirk, unlike what all these other kids thought. But you guys know what I mean. I feel like everybody wants to flex sometimes, and that's what Izuku definitely does, or did back then. But at the same time, he's starting to Kirishima's definitely starting to rub off on Izuku a little bit more from when he was very serious and just cold-hearted after the whole bullying incident. Nonetheless, they'd enter the building, and obviously Izuku would find out who he's sitting next to. Katsuki Bakugo. Of course, he doesn't really want to sit next to him, but they don't really say much at all, except for the fact that Bakugo is basically still thinking about the time that he saved him, saying that he didn't need help, and that he doesn't really need to thank him for anything, and Izuku just doesn't even respond. He doesn't really care. Nonetheless, the President Mike would eventually approach and begin to speak, telling everybody that they're going to be taking the written portion of the exam in another room, and once that is taken, they finally can take the practical exam. At the end of the day, this is what matters. The practical exam is basically do or die. If you don't do good on the practical exam, then it's a bust. There's some people that are pretty dumb in UA, to be honest, and frankly, they're able to squeak it out because of the practical exam. But with Izuku, of course, he's not stupid. He did pretty well on the written exam, but if he just basically throws up a dud in terms of the practical, well, he can kiss the idea of going to UA goodbye. He would then head over to his gate and begin to look around, seeing that same girl that he talked to not too long ago. While he would try to walk over to her, but would be instantly stopped by this boy by the name of Tenya Ida. Tenya Ida would say that he won't let him sabotage her, and Izuku is kind of weirded out by him, just teleporting behind him and continuing to walk. Izuku doesn't even know what to say to this guy. This guy is just so weird. While he is standing there waiting for the gates to open, he speaks to the girl that basically saved him from falling on his face for a little bit. They don't really have that much of a conversation until the gates swing open and Izuku teleports extremely far in front of them, and everybody is kind of calling him a cheater initially, but then President Mike says that that boy has the right idea. There are no countdowns in a real battle. Izuku begins to try and punch through robots, but it seems like he's not strong enough. Izuku realizes this and tries to find a way to do anything. He works on trying to beat up the 1-point robot and eventually would break it, but it would take so long. It takes way too long to do that. Izuku decides that he'll try something else. He teleports, grabs one, teleports it to a building and drops it off from the top. It smashes into the ground, getting destroyed, and Izuku feels like this might be the best way to do it. He continues to do this over and over and over again, but it's beginning to get him kind of tired, and honestly, it's not the most efficient thing he can do. The 3-point robots sometimes take a couple throws extra. The 2 and 1 pointers sometimes break on one impact, but not always. So frankly, he doesn't have that many points racked up yet. Izuku begins to think that it might be too difficult. It might be too much for him to actually destroy these robots. So when he's looking out from over the top of the building, he sees multiple people basically in trouble. If someone's gets really tired and is about to get attacked, he decides just to teleport them out of there to basically to help them as much as he possibly can. He feels that at least if he can't get through this, he'll help other people get through it. Izuku would begin teleporting people around to basically get them either away from robots or next to robots. Izuku didn't realize though that this was helping him. Izuku is doing everything he should be doing as a hero. He should be destroying the robots, helping or saving other people, and assisting other people to destroy robots. Those 3 things alone make him an actual hero. That is how a hero is supposed to approach things, and it's funny because him seemingly thinking that he is weak or he doesn't have enough experience with his quirk forced him into doing something more humble, more basically knowing that it wouldn't get him points, quote unquote, doing something that would sacrifice his own points to help others. This is why he would gain an extensive amount of points, for it. Just as he thinks that everything's coming to an end and frankly he's going to be going home, kind of sad because he's not going to get close to even passing, he begins to hear the rumbles of the 0-point robot, and it begins to just move in on everybody. He watches as everybody runs, and it seems like everyone's good and completely out of there. But he does see one person, that same brown-haired girl stuck under some rubble. Izuku immediately teleports to her and then teleports her out of there, teleporting her to the medical bay that would allow Recovery Girl to heal her up. Of course, the time would eventually expire, but the 0-pointer would eventually just get shut down because everyone just ran away. There was no need for anybody to go and try to blow it up to act like they're so macho. Izuku would look at the 0-pointer and wonder if he would even have a chance. He might have been able to teleport the thing into a building, but would it actually destroy, or would it destroy the building? Izuku begins to think these things and thinks that in terms of raw strength, he just lacks so much. But nonetheless, he doesn't really think much about it, and of course the girl with the brown hair begins to question why he would help her when he should have been getting more points. Izuku waves his hand and says that it's completely fine, that he wanted to help her anyways, that he was trying to help everybody because it doesn't seem like he's gonna be strong enough to be a hero. Recovery Girl then stops him slightly and says that what he was doing out there was being a hero. And, well, she thinks that he'll be surprised when he gets to the letter. Izuku is basically taken back by the thing that she just said, but he decides to head off after saying goodbye to both of them. Izuku would eventually meet up with Kirishima, and Kirishima would say that he thinks he did really good, that their training really did a lot for him. Izuku begins to question if he did well, but says that he got a good word in with Recovery Girl, one of the heroes on site, and she said that he would be surprised, in which Kirishima is shocked to hear this. Bro, Mito bro, that has to mean that you got in. Izuku doesn't really know if that's true and kind of just scratches his head. Yeah, maybe, but maybe not. I don't see how I could have got in without destroying that many robots. I only destroyed like maybe one 3-pointer and then a couple 2s and 1s. That's about it. Kirishima pats him on the shoulder, saying that if one of the other heroes there says that he did a good job and did what a hero should, then there's no way he doesn't get in. He's at least getting into UA's Class 1B, probably even Class 1A if that's truly what if it's true to what she's saying. This makes Izuku feel a good bit better, so he just heads off with Kirishima to celebrate on hopefully their way into UA. After their celebration, they go their separate ways, and they say that they'll be training here and there together until they get their said letter. Eventually, that letter would come. The letter would be definitely surprising though. Kirishima and Izuku would stand there, and Kirishima says that he'll go first, opening the letter to see All Might. All Might begins to say that Kirishima did a great job and that he got into Class 1A, ranking him in terms of everybody in the middle of the pack, but slightly higher than the middle of the pack because surprisingly enough, not to All Might because they don't really know, because surprisingly enough, Kirishima did pretty well on the test. He thanks Izuku for that, and Izuku says that it's no problem. At the end of the day, he's the one that took the test. He didn't take it for him. He says he knows, but of course the extra studying helps like crazy. Izuku nods as he opens up his, as All Might would appear as well. For the first time in a little bit, Izuku would crack a smile as he watched, well, his favorite hero, the number one hero in front of him, beginning to speak. Izuku Midoriya, now you are an interesting case. We looked at your test scores, and let's say they're impressive. Actually, top of your class impressive. In the top 3 by all means necessary. Now, I want to speak about, well, the practical exam. You made all of us think far differently about that exam, my boy, which is something I never knew would be said. We have a rescue portion of the exam, which you rescued many people, giving you a ton of points. And yeah, you didn't have many of robot points, but maybe we have to rethink a category in terms of robot assists. You did help others destroy robots too, and frankly, those points should definitely partially go to you. So, that's what we'll be doing, giving you partial of many points of, well, others you helped, and also others you've saved. So you have a rescue point total of 150, and also a robot total of about 50. Now, my boy, I hope you realize that you are definitely one to be a hero, and that you are even at the top of your class. Izuku is in complete shock. His stomach drops. He's like about on the verge of crying. Izuku drops everything, drops his envelope, and Inko runs in, hearing exactly what happened, and Kirishima is jumping with joy, excited for his friend. Izuku, he thought to himself that he really didn't have a chance, that he didn't think he would actually pass this exam from what he's seen, what he's done. Now he's being told he's the number 1, that he got the highest score, beyond people like Kirishima, beyond people like Bakugo. He doesn't even know what to say. He doesn't even know what to believe. Nonetheless, Izuku is ready. He knows that it's time for UA. From a young child, he wondered how it would look to take that next step into becoming a hero. And this is the time for him to do that. He got a compliment from the #1 hero, All Might. From All Might himself. Well, Izuku is going to push himself. Make sure that he's strong, and he's going to show everybody at UA that this is no fluke. It wasn't just because of a special portion that they added because of him. It wasn't just because of that. It's because he is a true hero. And using his quirk, he'll make sure he's just that. During this time though, during that little space in between UA and obviously them having that rest time, Izuku decides to teleport him, his mother, and all his friends to actually a place nice. They decide they're gonna head over to some place like Italy and have a nice little vacation. And of course, they don't have to go through airports or anything. Izuku just teleports them over there by looking at a picture of a resort that they booked. He will stay there for a couple days because he knows just as much as everybody else that working hard, you also need to have good rest and relaxation. And that's exactly what they're going to be getting. And once they come back from their little vacation, he'll be heading straight to UA. The first step in his hero journey begins right after this, and in the next part of What If Deku Had a Teleportation Quirk. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. I stayed up pretty late to do this. I kind of slept all day because I was sick and stuff, but nonetheless, I hope y'all enjoyed, and I hope all of y'all have an amazing day. Later.